So I'm playing Battlefield 6, waiting for Season 2, like pretty much everyone else, and this game happens to me. Okay, teammates 1 and 11, single-digit kills on pretty much everyone on my team. I've seen stuff like this happen before. Then, a couple days pass, this game happens to me. Now this one really sent me for a loop, because, my god. Just take a look at it, right? I did the math on this a couple days ago, added up all the kills and deaths between these here 18 teammates. It's something like 40 kills, like 130 deaths. Okay. And this made me want to find out why this sort of thing is so consistent and so common within Battlefield 6. Why is the average player having an abnormally difficult time playing Battlefield 6, doing well, even getting a kill? And that is why we're going to talk about Battlefield 6's biggest problem, the fact that it has absolutely no depth whatsoever by design, but DICE's design backfired. The game is actually so easy that it's hard. We're going to deep dive into all of this stuff. If you want to stay up to date with everything Battlefield 6, this is the channel for you. Hit the sub button, be sure to hit the like button, and swing by the streams. I stream on Twitch and YouTube every single day. All links are in the description. The first thing I want to say up front is this video is not trying to poke fun at the average player or casual players. I'm extremely aware that 90+% of the player base are casual players that don't have as much time to play, but there is something to be said for these games that I'm sure many of you have experienced as well, where your team legit just struggles to get a single kill. And the reasons for this are complicated. It's a lot of interconnecting, intertwined design decisions that DICE made with Battlefield 6 that basically result in the game having a very low skill floor and a lower than normal skill ceiling for the Battlefield franchise. In other words, it's very difficult to separate yourself as a player in Battlefield 6, even a little bit. And the first reason I will give for why this is the case is the gunplay / the muzzle velocities of Battlefield 6. The gunplay of this game is probably the most straightforward gunplay Battlefield has ever had. And when you make gunplay this easy, in combination with increasing muzzle velocities to extreme degrees, basically everyone beams. It makes everyone hit their shots way easier. This is definitely not how previous Battlefield titles functioned. In Battlefield 6, you can set up weapons to easily hit consecutive shots at, 60, 70, 80, even 100 meters with some weapons, and then you factor in the muzzle velocities easily touching 800, 900, even 1,000 meters per second on full auto weapons. It's kind of hard to miss. That's why a lot of people feel like there's no quote-unquote breathing room in these maps. People feel as though they can't move, they can't peek, they can't cross that area because they're going to get beamed. Yes, of course, because they made it way too easy to hit shots at range. And probably way too easy to hit shots in general. Comparing two assault rifle muzzle velocities, the TR7 versus Battlefield 4's AUG A3, and I'm only comparing the muzzle velocities here, I'm aware you can't compare these two weapons in a vacuum, you can see the TR7's default muzzle velocity is 648 meters per second, and the AUG's is 670 meters per second. In a vacuum, the slowest muzzle velocity assault rifle in Battlefield 6 is just barely slower than the fastest muzzle velocity assault rifle in Battlefield 4. What the fuck? And that's only comparing their muzzle velocities in a vacuum. Remember, in Battlefield 6, you can get extended barrel, there is no suppression that affects accuracy, and a lot of the weapons in Battlefield 6 are simply more accurate and easier to shoot than weapons in previous Battlefield titles. All of this results in the gunplay experience in Battlefield 6 being far too simplistic and far too easy, which means everyone fucking beams you. And the final piece of the puzzle is the fact that controller players get 25% less recoil. Now, I know it's a bit of a touchy subject, but it is still extremely relevant to mention when we are talking about this. Now, something that is directly tied to gunplay, or at least the result of the gunplay, is the time to kill, and also headshots. You take a look at how this functions in Battlefield 6, and basically the time to kill is extremely fast, and headshots don't really matter that much. So if I aim for the head, my aim is not rewarded, that is lowering the skill ceiling, And the super beam me gunplay in combination with the muzzle velocities, it makes it super easy to get a more consistent time to kill over extreme distance. That is certainly not the case in previous Battlefield titles. You would have to burst. You would essentially have a lot lower hit rate in previous titles. You would have to spend more time shooting at a longer distance target in order to actually get the kill. In Battlefield 6, you post up with a DRS that has 1,000 meters per second muzzle velocity, and you can hit 5-6 consecutive shots easily and just move on with your life. And I have more examples that I'll cover later in this video, but basically, when designing Battlefield 6, they made a conscious decision to try to cater the game more towards casual players, but as a result, some of these design decisions have actually ended up making the game harder for casual players because it's just too easy. Another great example of this is sniping. Once again, the sniping muzzle velocities are way too high. The Mini Scout reaching 1,000 meters per second muzzle velocity, and when you go to shoot a sniper, there's basically no downside for the sniper, even if they're aiming at you in their scope. They don't have any flinch. They can easily headshot you while you are trying to kill them, even at medium distance, where you would think they would be at a disadvantage. The result of all this gunplay stuff slash sniper stuff is basically your teammates just get beamed all the time and die, and that's how those scoreboards actually take place. The scoreboards that I showed at the beginning of the video, where basically the entire team is just dying all the time. If DICE really wanted to improve the gameplay for casual players, and really for everyone, they would actually be better off making the game harder. They would nerf muzzle velocities. They would maybe make the gunplay just a little bit more difficult, and they would absolutely nerf snipers. This would result in players getting more quote-unquote breathing room, which I hear mentioned so much, and, well, it would most likely result in less deaths for your team, which would mean more gameplay and maybe more enjoyable experiences. But the muzzle velocities and sniping and the gunplay are only a few examples of what DICE could look at changing in order to improve the gameplay of Battlefield 6. We haven't even touched on vehicles, we haven't touched on movement, and we haven't touched on class balance, which all are massive parts of this conversation. My main worry with Battlefield 6 is it's never going to reach that sort of almost legendary balance of previous Battlefield games, such as Battlefield 4, where that game satisfies pretty much everything. It satisfies the casual players who don't really care too much about the mechanics, and it satisfies the people that want to put a lot of time in the game and really grind and learn and get really good. With the way BF6 is right now, I don't really think it satisfies any type of player. I think the casual players are, well, just getting destroyed, and I think the really hyper sweaty players are bored as fuck and will end up really just quitting the game. And the last thing I want to emphasize here is the changes that I think really need to happen with Battlefield 6. They aren't going to increase the skill ceiling an unbelievable amount. All of these changes, if they really were to make them, would nudge the skill ceiling and the skill floor up 2 or 3 notches and just put it in line with previous Battlefield titles, the titles everyone talks about. The fact of the matter is, if we want Battlefield 6's gameplay to reach the levels of previous titles, these changes really do need to happen, or they should at least heavily consider doing some of them. My biggest worry is, with the addition of RedSec, that it's just going to be pretty much impossible because they have to balance the game to feel similar in RedSec and multiplayer. You can't have RedSec feel totally different compared to the multiplayer version of the game. That's just how they're going to think about it in the studio. So, I don't know. This is going to be kind of overcomplicated. I wish it wasn't. So that is going to wrap up this video, guys. Basically, the TLDR is, the game has no depth, and everything's too easy, so the casual player base is getting fucking beamed by every type of player under the sun. So be sure to let me know your experience playing Battlefield 6, or whether or not you feel this in-game and notice this type of thing happen on your team, where everyone just seems to be dead all the time with horrible kill-death ratios. If you enjoy the content and want to stay up to date with Battlefield 6, hit the sub button, be sure to hit the like button, and hype the video. I never really say that. I don't really know what it does, but if some of you want to hype the video, I'd really appreciate that, just to see, like, if I notice any difference. Thank you to everyone that does any of that, and, well, I will see you guys hopefully in the next stream and in the next YouTube video. Thank you guys for watching.